Welcome to On Blast. On Blast podcast is Duluth, Minnesota's first cultural plus and cultural controversy podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Green, and I go by Dree. This is On Blast. On Blast podcast is a production of Blast Entertainment and the great people at On Blast Podcast LLC. Click, like, share, subscribe. It costs you no money unless you acting funny. And right now what we're going to do is just get the bill portions out of the way, paying the bills, let these sponsors be noticed that, help us out tremendously. And this episode is number 5. Number 5. I can't believe it might not seem like much, but, it's been a process here on my end, getting this off the ground and whatnot, and it's just crazy. I'm already looking at 5 episodes, but episode number 5, and it's brought to you by the people at Drip 101 Clothing. For all your clothing needs or any you may have, go check them out. They're locally owned, and they carry designer brands like a Cool Hustle Gang, Louis Fifth. They're located 30 West 1st Street, heart of the city, downtown, right on 1st Street, right same block as Legacy Glass. Check them out. That's Drip 101 Clothing. They're a huge and major sponsor here. They wardrobe me when I'm doing my shit here with the podcast, and they help me up on many other back ends here. They're a great sponsor. I love them. Check them out. The people at Drip 101 Clothing. The next is the North Shore Snow Blaster Snow Removal Service. I know that we are out of season with the shit right now with the the snow removal, but if you live up here, you know that winter is going to be coming around in no time. I hate to even think that way, but they are servicing only the people in the Duluth and the Superior locations. You know what I mean? Give them a call. That's the great people at the North Shore Snow Blaster Snow Removal Service. Call them for an estimate or a quote or any snow removal needs you will need when the season is in full effect. And you can call them at 218-464-1525. That's the great people at the North Shore Snow Blaster Snow Removal Service. Lastly is the House of Healing. The House of Healing is the men's sober house of Duluth, Minnesota. They're also ranked number 1 in the city and in the state, which is huge up here in the Northland. They're changing lives there. Go check them out. You could call them or email them. Give them a call at 218-343-0460. Ask for a house supervisor and go from there. You know what I mean? And if you'd like to email them, it's houseofhealingduluth@gmail.com. You know what I mean? They're huge. I'm tapped in with them. They're a huge sponsor here. You know what I mean? They sponsor our sober shout-outs and the podcast. I can't say nothing but good about working with the people there. You know what I mean? And the whole getting people back on the right track. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say and stress enough about, you know what I mean? It's part of the reason why we do the sober shout-outs, really. I'm tapped in, really good there. You know what I mean? And they're great supporters. And now that we got that out of the way, we're going to jump into On Blast. And what we do here is, again, we tie in the Northland, we tie in Minnesota, and shit that's going on nationally. Sports, entertainment, music, news, political, this, that, the third. We got you covered here at On Blast. You know what I mean? So sit back, enjoy the show, and we're gonna start it like this. First of all, last episode, we talked about Jalen Hurts' contract. Just when you thought the shit got no bigger and better, Lamar Jackson is staying in Baltimore. You know what I mean? I told you on the last episode that I would have loved to see Action Jackson here in Minnesota. You know what I mean? And I think that's what took, the formatting of his deal in Baltimore so long, because, he was, these athletes, like, it's the name of the game now. If you're stand out on the net, on the pro level, you know what I mean? You gotta play these options carefully, because you want the best for your family. You know what I mean? There's always gonna be people that look down on you like, why is this motherfucker want, 200 million instead of, like 117 isn't enough. The name of the game is to get as much as you possibly can to set up your family for future endeavors and future, generations to come. So these athletes, they sit back and they see their options. You know what I mean? I think that's really what was taking so long. But let's talk about, let's politic about this man's contract. Jalen Hurts got $255 million, just over a quarter billion over 5 years. We got Jalen Hurts signed a 5-year deal with Baltimore Ravens worth $260 million. Just when you thought it got no bigger, I'm telling you, boy. Like these athletes, like when you're him on that level, you get contracts like this. You know what I mean? So they locked him in at that much. He's just getting just a little bit more than Jalen Hurts, but I'm pretty sure, that shit don't even matter. You know what I mean? Shout outs to fucking Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean? I wanted to see you so bad in Minnesota, but you know what I mean? It is what it is. I'm gonna stand behind my Vikings and support them to the utmost. But man, that was a perfect fit to see him here. You know what I mean? And shout out to my man, what's his name? Brody in Baltimore with the podcast out there. You know what I mean? Big, huge Baltimore Orioles, Baltimore Ravens. Huge fan. He's established, legit out there. And he is the Baltimore area. Shout out to Brody. We're gonna jump a little local right now with some local news. You know what I mean? And we're going to talk a little bit about this legalization of the marijuana and what's going on. You know what I mean? Just to surface a little bit more on what's going on and what to look for. You know what I mean? So you already know we're in there. They passed it. The shit's legal now. But the Minnesota Senate cast its first vote on legalizing it. This is when it all unraveled. You know what I mean? When the Senate had their hand in the mix and they were, doing what they do. This is what happened. The Minnesota Senate cast its first vote to legalize recreational marijuana Friday, pushing the proposal closer to being a law. Senators passed a DFL lead marijuana bill on a 34-33 vote, with the Democrats voting for it, and all the Democrats were pro this, and all the Republicans opposed. So it's just weird that not one Republican was for this, and this barely passed. You know what I mean? This barely passed. 34-33 is damn near neck and neck, and nobody's really talking about it. And if it were to be rejected, this would have been the 7th time this proposal has been shot down, by the Senate. Again, people, all state requirements for license will be evaluated hugely. I'm pretty like now we're waiting to hear from the state with more of this and what's proposed and these requirements and what's gonna be needed to come across this license in the state for Minnesotans who want to distribute, sell, grow, manufacture. You're gonna need a license by the state, and I'm just saying, don't be surprised if that the price for this license is astronomical. Don't be surprised. For you guys who could afford it, great, good. If you got it, great, good. But don't be surprised if they whack you with a huge ass price. Okay, it's legal now, and for you guys to fuck with this on the legal level now through the state, bam, that's how much you gotta pay us. Don't be surprised if that happens. I'm just letting you know right now. But and a lot's gonna be evaluated. And don't be surprised if they ask you for a criminal background check and all this. It's in the state's hands now. So they're going to draw up a whole cannabis management curriculum and itinerary for people to follow who want to do this on a legal level. I'm glad it's here, but for it to be on the level we still want it to be, it's still going to be somewhat of a, for people who want to manufacture, grow, dispense this, that, what I mean, in dispensaries or the dispensary level, there is still going to be obstacles, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And follow that. Minnesota is actually doing a whole bunch of fucking shit right now to make the state more appealing from what I'm being told. We're going to continue on with a little more news that is going to kind of affects us closer here, okay? The House of Representatives, the lawmakers have approved a state-run paid family and medical leave program in Minnesota. I had to look into this because I didn't really know too much of what what I was reading right away with this detail. If you have a job and you work and you are a resident in Minnesota, this pertains to you, okay? This bill was passed Tuesday night on a 68 to 64 vote. These bills that are being passed, they're like this. There's no landslides here. Like, there's no majority fucking like ruling on a lot of these bills that are being passed. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're coming. You know what I mean? But these things are tight. So this bill was passed Tuesday on a 68 to 64 vote. When Gen Zers think about moving to a different state, access to paid family medical leave is one of the top like considerations. You know what I mean? When you work in your job somewhere, if you got to relocate in Minnesota, one of the things you think about, if something happens to my family, you know, am I covered? So according to Minnesota, the House Democrats, the DFL is trying to make the state, like I said, way more attractive and way more appealing to come and reside in. They said yes to the minority law, the minority bill they passed. They said yes to the marijuana. Now this, you know, paid leave situation from your employer, this is now in effect. You know what I mean? So this is huge. This is people who work in Minnesota that live here, is what they're saying is the goal of this plan is to extend the most even safety net across the entire state, said Republican Ruth Richardson's the DFL of Mendota Heights. You know what I mean? So what this really details, let me further explain this so you understand, because this is news that affects us in the community here, far, anywhere in Minnesota. Republican Richardson's bill would now allow up to 12 weeks of partial payments each year to people who live and are employed in the state of Minnesota with a new child or a serious medical condition. So, new baby coming, you know what I mean? You get real sick, you get in an accident, you know what I mean? You're covered. A lot of this, if you didn't have health insurance, you'd be fucked. So what they're doing here through the state is making sure that, you know, people who reside that are employed here, they have this option, which is great. I thought this was newsworthy. Ruth Richardson, shout out to her. She's a Republican who pretty much thought this through, and I think it's huge. I think that's great. I work, you know what I mean? I still punch a clock for mine, you know what I mean? And it's just like some people, they can't afford to get sick. Some people can't afford to like fucking really get knocked up. You know, as sad as it sounds, but that's life. That's what's going on out here. Because if you have to remove yourself from the only way you make money for months, can you survive? Now we can. Shout out to Ruth Richardson. That's huge. We're gonna jump into some more news. Continuing on, pray for Jamie. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx remains hospitalized more than 3 weeks after suffering a medical emergency. I like Jamie Foxx. My you know, Steamin' Willie Beeman on Friday. Any Given Sunday. That was my shit. You know what I mean? But and this is what's going on with Jamie Foxx. I mean, actually, to tell the truth, the underlining like medical factor or the problem that's wrong with him is still being kept a secret. People close to Jamie say he needs all the prayers and well wishes he could get. You know what I mean? The exact conditions again remain a secret. It was on April 12th when Fox's daughter Corinne announced her father suffered a medical complication, and it has still been a secret. No one's really talking about what it is, but you know, shout outs to Jamie, man. Like, you know, he's an amazing, you know, insane talented, you know, human being. Like, you know, and has been in front of the camera and been on, you know, tracks, making music, and been writing and doing other shit for a long time in Hollywood and in front of the camera and in front of us. But you know what I mean, right now Jamie needs some prayers and some thoughts, you know, sent his way, because he it ain't looking too good for Jamie. I don't know. They're not really releasing much information, but his daughter says it's an emergency, a medical emergency, and it's like we never really heard Jamie, always be medically in trouble or medically sick or medically under somewhere or medically challenged with anything. You know what I mean? He's always been like what it seems to me like a fit, someone who takes care of himself and shit like that. But you never know what could happen. You know what I mean? We don't know these people like that. We don't know the underlying factor, what's going on with Mr. Fox. But all we could wish him is the best, and we will move on as such. Our next, we're gonna go with some sports news right now. We're gonna go with some sports news. This I should have talked about in the beginning with after Lamar Jackson's deal and shit like that. But this is another NFL-like situation. This is Jackson Mahomes, brother of the Kansas City superstar Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback for the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chief Patrick Mahomes. His brother, his brother's in jail on sexual battery charges. A situation happened in a restaurant where he forced himself upon a female. I watched the video. The petite blonde with the pink businesswoman suit on with the skirt and shit like that. She looked like fucking like Office Barbie. That's what she looked like, you know what I mean? And you could see him just grab her, kiss her, walked away, this and that. You can't hear on the video, you just see the visual aspect of it. Stopped, walked off camera, sight or point of view for a second, came back, did it again, and that was the end of it. But obviously it was enough for this chick to go back and say something, to complain, and it came across the right ears, who made this a bigger situation that ended up biting him in the ass. So he's the younger brother of, you already know, Patrick Mahomes, and he's arrested for aggravated sexual battery on Wednesday in relation to the alleged incident at a Kansas City restaurant in February. Mahomes was booked around 7:45 a.m. His bond was set at $100,000 according to the court records. He has 3 counts of aggravated sexual battery and 1 misdemeanor count of battery. I didn't remember last episode when I told everybody that cameras is everywhere, surveillance is everywhere, body cams are on, recording devices are on. You can't do dumb shit nowhere. These people got cell phones that got cameras better than the one that's shooting this fucking podcast. You see what I'm saying? You can't do no dumb shit. It's gonna come back on you. You know what I mean? And I wonder what Patrick's thinking about all of this. You know what I mean? I wonder what, the price to bail him, his bond, you know what I mean? He's probably out by the time I finish, he's been out probably by now, but it's the shit's crazy, you know what I mean? And whatever, I hope this doesn't draw no negative static, it is, to Patrick, but whatever. More of that would fuck with him being who he is right now. At some point in time, you got to keep fucking marching ahead. You gotta have that tunnel vision and stay in tune and focused on yourself. You know what I mean? Even when family is, being a nut around you and burning the town down and raping the whole town, you gotta stay on you. You know what I mean? Shout out to Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl winning quarterback. You know what I mean? Shout out to all of them. But yeah. That was going on in for Jackson Mahomes. That's crazy. I seen the whole video. The shit was crazy. It didn't even look like there was much of a struggle from her either. Not saying that would have made her right or wrong, or if it is right or wrong, or if this is really the case, or this is. I'm not saying no shit like that. All I'm saying is you see him grab her, kiss her. Boom, let her go, grab her head again when he walked off camera and came back in, kissed her again, and then, that was it. That was all that the video really kind of showcased and whatnot. So what, whatever, more dumb shit. But people got to start paying for and owning up to their shit. And apparently, none of that shit that he did to her was wanted, welcome, or asked for. So that's the world of difference. Here's some music news. We'll keep you briefed and touched up and up to date with. You know what I mean? First female rapper to make the Rock Hall of Fame. My girl, Missy Elliot, man. Missy, man, listen, man. Remember that boom, 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 boom? That was the hardest beat to me. Growing up, that Missy, that boom, 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 boom. That Missy Elliott beat was still one of the hardest beats to me. Anyway, Missy Elliott went on and tweeted, "I want to say this is a huge ordeal, not just for me, but all the sisters in hip hop. This door is now